Hi, my name is Emily, and before I begin, please hit subscribe if you like real-life betrayal stories, give this video a like, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I read everyone. Now listen closely, because what I'm about to tell you still feels like a bruise on my heart. He said he was working late, just like every other night that week. I didn't think much of it. He'd been stressed about deadlines, and I wanted to believe him. That's what love does. It makes you trust even when something inside you whispers that something isn't right. I remember sitting on the couch, our son asleep in his room, the TV murmuring quietly in the background. The clock ticked past 10 p.m., then 10:30. I picked up my phone to call him, just to ask if he'd eaten. The call connected after a few rings. But it wasn't his voice that answered. It was a woman's.
Calm.
Familiar. Almost like she'd been expecting the call. "Hey, you're finally free?" she said softly, a little laugh in her tone. My stomach dropped. I froze. For a moment, I couldn't even breathe. I wanted to believe I had dialed the wrong number, but then she said his name, my husband's name, like it belonged to her. That was the moment everything changed. One phone call, one voice, and suddenly, the man I thought I knew, the man I trusted with my whole heart, became a stranger on the other end of the line. It started like any other weekday, ordinary, predictable, safe. The kind of evening where nothing seems out of place, yet in hindsight, every tiny detail feels like a quiet warning. Zane left for work that morning in his usual rush, coffee in one hand, laptop bag slung over his shoulder. He kissed me on the cheek, a quick, distracted gesture, and said, "Don't wait for me tonight, Em. I'll probably be working late again." I smiled, pretending not to notice that the warmth in his voice had faded weeks ago. I told myself he was tired, work had been tough lately, and maybe I was just being paranoid. That evening, after putting our son, Saad, to bed, I tried to distract myself. I cooked his favorite dinner, baked chicken with herbs, mashed potatoes, and a salad with extra olives, just the way he liked it. I even lit a candle on the table. It felt silly, but a part of me hoped he might surprise me and come home early. The house smelled warm and comforting, but the empty chair across from mine made the food taste like cardboard. After dinner, I washed the dishes, wiped the counters, and scrolled through my phone absent-mindedly. Every few minutes, I'd glance at the clock on the wall. 8 p.m. turned into 9:15, then 9:45. Still no message. No call. Just silence. The same pattern all week. Working late. Just one more meeting. Don't wait up. When you live with someone long enough, you start noticing the small changes. The tone in their voice, the way they hold their phone, the tiny pauses between sentences. Zane's phone had become his new shadow lately. He never left it lying around anymore. Even during dinner, he'd keep it face down like it was something private, something sacred. I told myself it was work. But deep down, a cold fear had started to form, quiet but persistent. I sat on the couch, the TV playing a random cooking show I wasn't really watching. The only other sound was the hum of the refrigerator. My mind wandered to when we were newly married, how he used to text me every hour, how we'd talk about everything and nothing at all. Somewhere along the way, the laughter had turned into short replies, the affection into routines. At 10:15, I decided to call him, not because I suspected anything, but because I missed him. I wanted to hear his voice. I dialed his number, expecting the usual, "Hey, babe, I'm still at the office." But instead, the line rang once, twice, and then connected. Except it wasn't Zane. A woman's voice answered.
Soft.
Playful. Familiar in a way that made my chest tighten. "Hey," she said, a small laugh in her tone. "You're calling again?" Couldn't wait, huh? For a few seconds, I couldn't speak. I just held the phone, frozen, trying to make sense of what I'd heard. Because in that moment, every ordinary thing about that evening shattered. For a few seconds, I couldn't process what I was hearing. I thought maybe I had dialed the wrong number. Maybe my phone had glitched. Maybe she was joking, but how could she? My hands went cold as I pressed the phone tighter to my ear. "Hello." I finally managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. There was silence for a moment, the kind of silence that stretches just long enough to make your heart start racing. Then she spoke again, casually, too casually. "Oh, sorry," she said, sounding amused. "I thought you were Zane." My breath caught in my throat.
Zane.
She said his name like it was hers to say, soft, familiar, practiced. I could almost hear the smile in her voice. My fingers trembled as I forced myself to respond. "Who is this?" Another pause. "I'm a friend," she said finally, drawing out the word friend like it was a private joke between them. "You must be Emily, right?" The sound of my name from her mouth made me feel sick. How did she know my name? My pulse was pounding so loud I could barely hear her next words. "Zane said he'd stop by after finishing up his work." I thought that was him calling.
Stop by.
The phrase replayed in my mind again and again. He told me he was working late at the office. Not stopping by anywhere. Not meeting anyone. Just working. That's what he said every single night this week. And yet, this woman, whoever she was, spoke as if she had been waiting for him. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my voice steady. "Where exactly is he supposed to be stopping by?" She laughed softly, that confident kind of laugh that made my skin crawl. "I don't think he'd want me to tell you that." And just like that, she hung up. I sat there, staring at the phone screen, feeling the blood drain from my face. The call lasted 47 seconds. Less than a minute, but it felt like my whole marriage had collapsed in that time. I called again. No answer. I texted. "Who was that? Why did a woman answer your phone?" No reply. I felt the tears burn behind my eyes, but anger kept them from falling. I replayed the woman's voice in my head, her tone, her laughter, the way she said Zane's name. There was intimacy there, the kind that can't be faked. I walked to the bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed, phone in my lap, staring at it as if it would give me the truth. My mind was racing through every memory. The late nights, the meetings, the sudden need for privacy. The new cologne he'd started wearing a month ago. Each small doubt I had ignored started fitting together like puzzle pieces, forming a picture I didn't want to see. That call wasn't just a mistake. It was a message. A message that my husband's work nights had nothing to do with work and everything to do with her. After that call, the silence in the house felt unbearable. Every creak of the floor, every hum of the refrigerator sounded louder, heavier, like the air itself was accusing me of being blind for so long. I sat on the edge of the bed, gripping my phone like it was a lifeline. I kept staring at his name on the screen, waiting for it to light up again, for him to call, to explain, to say it was all a misunderstanding. But nothing came. Minutes turned into an hour. My messages remained unread. The ticking clock on the wall felt like it was mocking me with every second that passed. I needed answers, not tomorrow, not later, now. So, I did what I had promised myself I'd never do. I opened his phone messages. Zane's phone and mine were synced through our shared account, so I had limited access to his cloud backups, mostly for photos. I told myself I was checking for peace of mind, not to invade his privacy. But deep down, I already knew what I'd find. At first, there was nothing obvious. No long romantic paragraphs or saved names that screamed mistress. Just short, subtle messages buried between work conversations.
You home yet?
Same place tonight? You looked amazing today. They were harmless enough if read alone, but together they painted a story I didn't want to read. Then I noticed one contact saved under a single letter. L. I clicked. The chat wasn't long. Just a few messages, mostly at odd hours. But one stood out. It was from the night before. L. You still owe me that kiss you promised. Zane. Haha, I'll make it up to you tomorrow night. Don't pout. I felt my stomach twist. My hands went numb. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. I scrolled further and found a photo. Blurry, taken in a dimly lit cafe. 2 mugs on a table. A man's arm, his arm, reaching across toward someone. And there, barely visible in the corner of the frame, was a woman's hand wearing a silver bracelet. I remembered that bracelet. I'd seen it before, in a picture one of his coworkers had posted at a company dinner months ago. Her name was Lydia. Everything clicked at once. I went to his social media. Scrolling through his posts, I noticed subtle clues. Comments from Lydia with winking emojis, likes on old pictures, even one photo from last week of him standing in the parking lot, the corner of her car just barely visible behind him. Details so small you'd miss them if you weren't looking, but I was looking now. The betrayal wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet, woven into everyday things. A late-night meeting, a phone kept face down, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. By the time I put my phone down, my hands were shaking. There was no denying it anymore. The woman who answered his phone wasn't a stranger. She was the proof of everything I had feared. And that proof was enough to change everything that came next. After hours of pacing, crying, and rereading every message I'd found, something inside me shifted. The shock had burned off, leaving behind a strange, cold calm. The kind of calm that comes when pain turns into purpose. I wasn't going to sit there drowning in questions. I needed to see it with my own eyes. I needed to hear the truth from him. It was past 11 p.m. when I grabbed my car keys. The house was dark except for the dim hallway light. My son, Saad, was fast asleep. I stood by his door for a moment, watching him breathe peacefully, and whispered, "Mommy's okay." But I wasn't. I was shaking, not from fear, but from anger so deep it made me feel steady. Before leaving, I checked the number the woman had mentioned during that short, haunting call. The address she had carelessly dropped into the conversation was still fresh in my mind, a small apartment complex near his office. My heart was pounding as I entered it into Google Maps. 12 minutes away. Just 12 minutes between me and the truth. I texted him one last time before I left. Me. Are you still at work? Zane. Yeah, finishing up. Might be late again. Go to sleep, babe. The nerve. The absolute audacity of lying while looking me in the eye through a text. That message was all I needed to confirm what I already knew. He wasn't at work. I drove through the quiet streets, headlights cutting through the dark. My mind replayed every memory, our wedding day, our first apartment, the night Saad was born. I kept asking myself, when did he stop loving me? Was it slow, like sand slipping through fingers, or did he just wake up one day and decide I wasn't enough anymore? When I reached the address, I parked a little away from the entrance, so he wouldn't notice my car. The building was small, with yellow light spilling from one of the upstairs windows. I didn't need anyone to tell me which apartment it was, I felt it. My gut told me everything I needed to know. At 11:30, I saw his car pull in. He got out, laughing softly, holding his phone. My breath hitched. He looked happy. Lighter. Freer. The way he hadn't looked around me in months. My fingers clenched the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Then she appeared, Lydia, standing at the doorway in an oversized shirt, hair tied up, barefoot, like she was comfortable there, like she belonged there. She smiled when she saw him. He didn't even hesitate. He walked straight to her and wrapped his arms around her. That was it. My confirmation. My breaking point. I didn't storm and didn't scream. Instead, I took out my phone, snapped a picture of them together, and whispered to myself, no more lies. That night, I didn't go there to destroy him. I went there to finally free myself from the illusion that we still had a marriage. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? The image of Zane with her replayed behind my eyelids every time I blinked, his hand on her back, the way he smiled like a man completely at ease. That smile broke me more than the hug did. It was the kind of smile I hadn't seen in months, not directed at me. Not since life became about bills, schedules, and half-hearted love yous before bed. By the time the sun rose, I had decided I wasn't going to let him twist the story or talk his way out of this. I wasn't going to scream or cry in front of him. I wanted him to see what he'd done, to see me calm, cold, and done pretending. He came home at 7:40 a.m. His hair was messy, his shirt wrinkled, and he smelled faintly of coffee and perfume, not mine. I was sitting on the couch when he walked in. He froze for a second when he saw me awake. "Emily? You're up early," he said, setting his keys on the table. His voice was careful, too careful. I didn't answer right away. I just looked at him. Really looked. For the first time, I saw the stranger he had become. Not my husband, but a man who had built a whole secret life behind my back. "Where were you last night?" I asked, my tone calm, almost detached. He blinked. "I told you, I was at work. The team stayed late to finish." I cut him off by holding up my phone. "Don't lie."
Please.
"Not again." His brows furrowed. "What are you talking about?" I hit play on the voice recording I'd made, the one from the phone call with Lydia. Her voice filled the room. "Hey, you're finally free? I thought you weren't coming tonight." The color drained from his face. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. His jaw tightened. "Emily, I can explain." "Explain what?" I asked, my voice trembling now, anger and heartbreak bleeding together. "Explain how your coworker knows you're coming over at night? Explain how she answers your phone and says your name like it belongs to her." He rubbed his face, sighed heavily, then sat down like the weight of his own guilt had finally caught up to him. "It's not what you think," he said weakly. "Oh, really?" I shot back. "Because from where I'm standing, it's exactly what I think." He was quiet for a long moment before finally muttering, "It just happened. We've been spending time after work. I didn't mean for it to get serious." I laughed, a bitter, hollow laugh. "Didn't mean for it? Zane, affairs don't just happen. You chose this. Every message, every lie, every late-night meeting, that was your choice." He reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "Emily, I'm sorry," he said softly. "It was stupid. I was lonely. You've been so busy with Saad, and I—" "Don't you dare blame me for this," I snapped, standing up. "I was busy raising our son and holding this family together while you were out finding comfort somewhere else." The room went silent. For the first time, he had no defense. He just sat there, staring at the floor, realizing there was nothing left to say. I walked to the doorway, turned back, and said the words I had been holding in since last night. "You broke something you'll never be able to fix." Then I went to our bedroom, closed the door, and cried quietly into my pillow. Not for him, but for the woman I used to be before I knew the truth. The days that followed felt like living inside a fog, not the soft, dreamy kind, but the heavy, choking kind that blurs everything you thought was clear. I woke up each morning with a pit in my stomach, the same question circling in my head. How do you move forward after something like this? The house felt foreign. Every corner carried a memory. The couch where we'd watched movies, the kitchen where we'd laughed over burnt pancakes, the hallway where he'd kissed me goodbye before work. Now, each memory felt tainted, like someone had taken a marker and drawn a dark line through it. The first thing I did was hide the picture frames. Not throw them away. I wasn't ready for that, but I couldn't bear to look at his face. I packed them into a box and shoved it to the back of our closet. It wasn't about erasing him. It was about giving myself space to breathe without constant reminders of the life that had just crumbled. For a while, I went through the motions like a machine. Wake up. Get Saad ready for school. Go to work.
Come home. Cook.
Sleep.
Repeat.
But even in that routine, something inside me had changed. I didn't check my phone constantly anymore, waiting for his texts. I didn't plan dinners hoping he'd show up. I stopped pretending that silence meant peace. I finally understood it meant distance. Zane tried to talk to me a few times. He'd send short messages, "Can we talk? Please don't shut me out." Sometimes he'd show up at the house, standing awkwardly in the doorway, looking like a man who'd lost everything but didn't know how to say sorry properly. I couldn't even look him in the eyes. Every time I did, I saw her face instead. I'd tell him, "Not now," and walk away. The worst part was explaining things to my son without really explaining them. He was too young to understand infidelity, but not too young to notice that something was wrong. "Why isn't Daddy staying with us?" he asked one night. My throat tightened as I answered softly, "Daddy and Mommy just need some time to think." He nodded. Kids always accept things more gently than adults, but his little frown broke me. Nights were the hardest. That's when the loneliness hit, not because I missed him, but because I missed the idea of what I thought we were. The laughter, the security, the partnership. I realized how much of myself I had given up trying to make us work, and now I had to figure out who I was without him. I started journaling again, something I hadn't done in years. I wrote down everything I couldn't say out loud. The anger, the confusion, the heartbreak, and eventually, small pieces of hope. I also began going on evening walks after putting Saad to bed. Those quiet moments helped me think, helped me breathe again. Each day, the pain dulled a little. It didn't disappear. Betrayal leaves scars that never fully fade, but it stopped defining me. I wasn't ready to forgive him. But I was ready to start forgiving myself for believing his lies, for ignoring my intuition, and for holding on to a man who had already let go. Weeks passed. The chaos had settled, but what remained was worse: silence. The kind of silence that forces you to sit with your thoughts, your pain, your truth. Zain had moved out temporarily, staying with a friend from work, though part of me suspected he wasn't spending his nights there. I didn't ask. I didn't need to. The questions that once haunted me now felt meaningless. I already knew the answers. He still called sometimes. Sometimes to ask about Saad, sometimes just to ask how I was doing, as if he hadn't shattered our entire world. "I miss you," he said one night over the phone, his voice quiet, almost trembling. "I made a mistake, Emily. I swear it didn't mean anything." I sat there, phone pressed to my ear, staring at the wall in front of me. There was a time when hearing those words would have melted me, when I would have rushed to fix everything, to hold on to what we had. But now, his words felt empty. It didn't mean anything. If it didn't, then why did it destroy everything that did? That night, after putting Saad to bed, I sat on the floor of our bedroom, surrounded by old photo albums. Each picture told a story: our wedding day, our honeymoon, the first ultrasound photo, our first Christmas as parents. I ran my fingers over each image, searching for the moment where things started to fade. I couldn't find it. It was like trying to pinpoint the exact second a flame turns into smoke. People think betrayal is about one event, one act. But it's not. It's a slow unraveling, 1,000 tiny choices that lead to the moment someone stops choosing you. My friends and family tried to guide me in different directions. My mother said, "You should try to work it out, for the sake of your son." My sister, on the other hand, was firm. Once a man crosses that line, he'll always find a way to cross it again. I listened to everyone, but inside, I knew that this decision was mine alone. I met Zain for coffee a few days later. Neutral ground, public place, no emotions running wild. He looked tired, remorseful even. "I'll do anything, he said, his eyes glassy. "Therapy, counseling, whatever it takes."
Please.
"I can't lose you and Saad." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe the man I fell in love with still existed somewhere under all the lies. But I also knew trust doesn't rebuild itself just because someone says sorry. It takes years, and I was too exhausted to start over on broken ground. I told him the truth as gently as I could. "I'm not ready to forgive you. Maybe one day I will. But right now, I need peace, not promises." He nodded, silent tears running down his face. For the first time, I realized he wasn't the only one grieving. I was too. Not for the man sitting across from me, but for the woman I used to be before he betrayed her. That was the hardest choice, not walking away, but accepting that love isn't enough when trust is gone. Sometimes, choosing yourself means breaking your own heart. After that coffee meeting, I walked out into the cold evening air feeling strangely light and unbearably heavy at the same time. The decision I had been avoiding for weeks finally took shape inside me. It wasn't shouted or written in anger. It came quietly, like a whisper I couldn't ignore anymore. I can't live like this. I realized that forgiveness and staying are not the same thing. I could forgive Zain someday, not for him, but for myself. Yet I didn't have to keep living in the shadow of his choices. I wanted peace more than I wanted answers. I wanted to show my son what self-respect looked like, not what blind endurance felt like. So I made my choice. I filed for separation. It wasn't easy, not at all. The night I told Zain, his face went pale, his lips trembled, and for the first time, I saw the weight of regret in his eyes. He tried to speak, but no words came. I didn't cry. I had done enough of that. I simply said, I hope one day you understand why. The next few weeks were a blur of paperwork, moving boxes, and quiet moments of panic. Every time I folded one of Sada's little shirts, I wondered if I was doing the right thing. Every time I looked at our family photos, I felt a crack inside my chest. But every morning, when I woke up in a space that was mine, truly mine, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. I started small. Morning walks. Cooking my favorite meals. Reading again after years. I found comfort in the little things that reminded me I was still alive, still capable of happiness beyond heartbreak. Saad adjusted better than I expected. Children are resilient in ways adults often forget. He asked questions sometimes, the kind that stab right through your heart. Mom, why isn't Daddy home? I'd smile softly and say, Daddy loves you very much, sweetheart. But Mommy and Daddy need to live in different houses for now. It wasn't the perfect answer, but it was the truth his little heart could handle. Over time, Zane and I learned to be civil. We spoke about co-parenting, about routines, about what was best for our son. The bitterness slowly faded, replaced by something gentler, not love, but acceptance. We both made mistakes, but only one of us was willing to live differently because of them. Choosing myself didn't mean I stopped loving him. It meant I finally loved myself enough to stop begging for the bare minimum. I chose healing over history. One evening, months later, I stood on the balcony, watching Saad chase bubbles in the fading sunlight. The world felt quiet, and for the first time since that phone call, I smiled without forcing it. Because sometimes the bravest thing a woman can do is simply choose herself. If this story touched you, leave a comment and share your thoughts. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more real-life stories of love, betrayal, and strength.